are live, lads. Welcome back to the newest edition of Mecca of Banter. You're here with your boy Hoove, checking in at Young Yid on Twitter. It's been a week for me. How are you guys doing, Dobes? What's going on, brother?
What's going on, fellas? It is always a great day to be a United fan. Tough day yesterday, but always a great day to be a United fan. Tough day to be a City fan. Took our first loss this past weekend, but happy to dive in. A lot of good fixtures that went on this weekend. A lot of good stuff to dive into.
Yeah, there was some great footy this weekend, frankly, across the board. So, Winksy, what's going on, dog?
What's up, fellas? Winks here at LCW21 on Twitter. I don't know much to say. Another 3 points this week, still sitting up top, so I feel good. Lads feel good. Yeah, stoked to dive into it too.
And then Nikki, my brother who shares in some of the despair that I do weekly, although I do sit considerably higher up in the table. How we doing? How we doing, Nick?
In a Champions League spot too, I think right now.
We're doing over here. Obviously some crazy news in the Chelsea world of recent. We just sacked our manager, so I am managerless, or we are managerless at the moment. But yeah, I mean, hey, I kind of called it last week. Knew it was kind of coming with a loss. There was a lot of pressure on them, and happy to dive in. Obviously, you guys can find me on Twitter at Hayfee4. It's about to start to get active.
Yeah, so it has been a wild week, and it feels like when you get in the thick of the Prem, every week's a wild week. None of the decisions that have been made within the last couple of weeks have been all that shocking to any of us. So that's really how the ebb and flow of the Premier League is. So we'll dive in. First game, notably that we will hit is Manchester City and Liverpool. It was bright and early. Andy had a late night. I did not get up to watch that game, so. Dobes, Nick, you guys tapped in. It was a good one.
Yeah, this is one of those games that every sort of Prem fan, even regardless of where Liverpool sits in the table, just the history of kind of what's happened over these past couple of years, like every Prem fan sort of just circles this game on the calendar. I did get up for it, and I'm glad that I did. I always love seeing Liverpool lose, but this kind of looked as the Liverpool that we've seen all year. Like they do start hot. They do score goals. Like we saw the same thing sort of happen against Real Madrid. They scored early, fantastic goal, completely against the run of play. And then all of a sudden we saw City become the City of last year. And they went through the gears, and it was something that we sort of hadn't seen from a City team too many times this year, to where every single person on their team was clicking. We were talking about it before the podcast. Grealish was unbelievable. Mahrez is one of the best wingers in the league. Kevin De Bruyne, brilliant as always. And my man of the match, and won't be like most people's, but John Stones playing in the center midfield was absolutely like, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the Prem. Him playing in the midfield and looking like he'd been doing it for forever is something to be noted as well. But this is a vintage City performance that we hadn't seen in quite some time. And honestly, watching Liverpool just makes me that much more embarrassed that we did lose to that team 7-0, because they're absolutely fucking abysmal.
Yeah, that is outrageous that you mentioned that. I always forget that you guys lost 7-0.
That's an insane thing. I
know. We all talked about it.
Bro, they're that bad. That's why.
Yeah. No, I agree. And we're not much better, so we'll get past that. But what I was gonna say is yeah, no, absolutely. We talked about it last pod with City and Liverpool coming in, like just the way that the momentum was going. City was scoring a lot of goals, and Liverpool obviously was not playing well. And I think we kind of hit it right on the head. Also, I think we were talking about it before the pod. City without Haaland, I mean, obviously Haaland's a world-class player, and we've talked about it many times. I've obviously argued him against Harry Kane. Don't have to go down that again, but like when they're without him, they flow so much smoother. And I completely agree with like some of your guys' takes of recent. I think this game amplified it drastically. I also thought you gave a great shout, Doze, with Jack Grealish. I also want to note his chase down on Salah was class, and I think it already proves that he's a better winger or wing back than Trent Alexander-Arnold. But yeah, so I think we kind of saw this one coming, and City's just rolling at the moment.
And we got Hen. Welcome to it, man. Glad to have you. You did also watch this Liverpool and City
I
game.
did. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was just so bad. And I'm sure I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I think that you guys probably have said everything already. But I mean, I thought that Liverpool was going to come out firing. I thought that their goal that Salah had against the run of play, I really was like, this is going to be pretty big for them. And then they completely imploded. I caught the tail end of what Dobes was saying of it being an embarrassment that United lost 7-0 to them. And it is. I mean, they're so bad. It hurts to watch. I mean, it's just like it's the worst style of football I think that exists in the Prem right now. Liverpool just imploding every single second. We'll get to you, Hoof. Don't worry, we'll get to you. But City, to your point, City does flow a little bit better without Holland. Now, what I will say is that Alvarez fits the mold a little bit of what a classic City striker has been. For example, you could plug Alvarez into that Arsenal team right now, and there will be a slight dip in performance between Jesus and Alvarez because they're not on the same level. But Alvarez will take up a lot of the same positions as what Jesus does, similarly to Aguero. Holland's just completely different to all of them. So even though we're over halfway through the season, they're still trying to figure out how do you play with the cohesive 10 guys on the field outside of the keeper when one of them can't link up play. So like they're still figuring that out. You drop Alvarez in there and everything's back to normal. So they put 4 goals in. I mean, they're still sick. I still think they're the best team in the Prem. City is. I'll die on that hill. And yeah, this game proved it.
Yeah, I also think another person that deserves another shout, and Dope's kind of hit on it, but Mahrez, oh my gosh, he is so like
Disgusting.
It's funny. I was like listening to a pod today during work, and they were talking about like it's almost like Iron Robin-esque, where like everyone knows he's going to his left at some point in his runs, and he still continuously does it and either distributes a great ball or puts a shot on net that's worldy. Like the man's very good, and I think he's very underrated. And I also think people forget like he won a title at Leicester, he's won a lot with City. Like the man's quality.
It's kind of it's kind of like Anthony, right? Like he's
Exactly.
going to his left, but then instead
It's
of
like
putting a nice
off-brand.
ball in or
So, yeah,
scoring, he just
how old
passes
is
it backwards.
How old is
It's
Ziyech?
actually the
30
first guy I
something.
thought of.
How old is Ziyech? 30 something. Anthony's what?
There's
21.
no way.
I was really, really down to listen to the tail end of that comment, Lucas, and I just think you just took it in a direction that you didn't have to, and it was not a good comment.
Lucas,
it was
we had
pretty
the
bad.
same. Nah, that was the first thing that popped up in my head.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds like a lot like
Yeah,
a guy
and Mahrez has to
I
do a lot
know.
less.
Here's the deal.
360s
Here's the
too.
deal. If you're gonna compare him to
Mahrez
Robin,
is
you said
32.
he's gonna cut in and you can't stop it. Anthony's gonna cut in and you can stop it. They're not the same. They're not on the same level. So
Right.
like,
I just wanted to make that known.
Yeah,
You
there's
know?
just a comparison. Yeah,
going for a
that's
little
all.
clickbait there. I get it, Lucas. I
Wow.
get it. I get it.
Who-
Genuinely,
Henry,
that was
taking
my
one out
first
of your
thought.
book.
Who
That was
hurt you,
genuinely
Hen?
my first thought.
The
Who
last
hurt
point
you?
I want to make about this game is I texted you guys this, and we mentioned him earlier, but for some reason, like I've fallen in love with Jack Grealish and seeing him with like the pressure that he's been under. I don't like seeing City do well, but I do like seeing Jack Grealish succeed because he's just such a vibes guy. I don't know if you saw his interview where like he just like cut his interview short and he was like, I'm gonna love you and leave you so I can go see how many days we have off after this. It was like exactly like, and that's just Jack Grealish. And so I got to give him some flowers because he actually showed up and has been back to the Aston Villa Jack that we hadn't seen in so long.
And one thing
Go
that I like, I love that we're giving him shouts on his play because I know we all like him as a player, but we've seen what he's done off the field with cerebral palsy. We know that his sister suffers from it, and so we know that he's genuinely a good guy and that we were rooting for him. But it's cool that now we can really start to see him come into his own and play in a way that we can feel comfortable shouting him out like that.
100%.
And we're still gonna get videos of him bent up in a hot tub in Vegas in the summer.
DJ
So,
Grillo,
like,
baby. DJ
That,
Grillo.
look, that's the guy after my own heart, man.
He can do it all.
Dude,
he really can do it all.
He could be there when we're there. Yeah. We
Dude,
might run into him.
We love Grealish. It was a good game, but moving on to one in which many of us had the over. Actually, I just took the over because I refused to take the team total. The rest of the Mecca took the team total of Arsenal goals. at 2.5. 4-1 to Leeds. It was pretty much how everyone expected. And I will say Leeds threw out a little bit of a B team lineup and prep to basically just roll over, which I kind of thought happened. But yeah, Winks, you can take the lead here, but it was pretty comfortable.
Yeah. I think that with City thrashing Liverpool 4-1 earlier in the morning, we as the league leaders at the moment needed to match that. So obviously we beat them 4-1. I do wish we could have seen Tyler Adams play. I know I agree that they had a bit of a B team lineup, but I think that seeing Tyler Adams and Odegaard go at it would have been absolutely electric. Leeds don't score a ton of goals typically, especially against Big Six clubs, minus the 2 they scored against United earlier in the year. So if Saliba was to miss a game, this is probably the one to miss, and Rob Holding played fine. Nothing outstanding, but it looks like he'll be back for the game Sunday against Liverpool. Were you going to say something, Dobes?
No.
No. Okay.
I only watched the first half of the this game.
Got
The
it.
only thing
Yeah.
I was going to
Well,
mention was Leeds. Like Leeds had like 4 chances to go up
Yeah.
1 or 2-0 and
Yeah,
just did not
early.
convert. And then once Arsenal got one, the whole game changed.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say about the first half specifically was like watching this game was interesting because I think overall we definitely cruised, but Leeds looked much more defensively organized in the first half when we typically blitz, and we looked uncharacteristically slower, I thought. But yeah, kind of like what you said with the floodgates, proud of the way that we kept the pressure on and in the second half put them away. I just don't think that, I said it a couple pods ago, but we should be treating every single game as a final from here on out, and I don't think that we can afford that big of a slow start or that big of a lapse in the first half against, a couple of the biggest games that we have remaining in City and Newcastle primarily. But, I think that maybe we were a bit premature in titling episode 22 Jesus Has Risen, because he definitely rose this weekend. Saturday morning, 2 goals on 4 shots in 60 minutes in his first Premier League start since November. 9.2 match
Jeez.
rating, man of the match. And I know I speak for all the Gooners when I say that, we're buzzing to have him back. Especially in match form, not just as a sub. But I think what's going to be tough from here on out, if you think about it, is what our front 3 is going to look like, because now that Gabby Jesus looks like he's back in top match form. Trossard has 7 assists in his last 6 games. Martinelli's playing well on the left side, and Saka was, I think, a little sick, but it wasn't anything injury-wise, just under the weather, and didn't need to play in this game anyways. But he's a must-start every day of the week as well. So I'm super interested to see how Arteta's going to mix these 4 in the games the rest of the year, whether or not, Trossard or Martinelli will kind of be used as a super sub. Just reading into it as much as I can, I feel like one of those 2 things is what's going to happen. But it's a great problem to have, and a problem with regard to depth that we haven't had in quite some time. So Liverpool on Sunday, I don't know about Butch, but I cannot wait.
It'll be nuts. I am a little disappointed in Leeds. I think your call out Hoove is a good one of like they came out with the B side. I think like last week we talked about, both teams coming out fast and pressing a lot. We knew that Tyler wasn't going to be there, but I was expecting, maybe I just didn't look at the, the projected injuries like I should have. But when they announced the lineup, I was one of those people that just hammered the team total over, because I was like, there's no way this Leeds team can compete with Arsenal. Arsenal is, better all day long, but they're in a relegation fight. Like they're also in every game's a final mode, and to just like come out with a lineup like that just seemed a little odd. I mean, Christensen got a goal, but he's a right wing back at that, and playing center back. Like it's just one of those things that it's so bonkers to me. But obviously, shouts to you, Lucas. You can only play the team that's in front of you, and he did that. He scored 4 of them, so good on you.
Yeah, Arsenal's. I was just gonna say, Arsenal's rolling right now, and I think the fact that they're not in any European competition is helping them drastically. I know we keep like harping on that, but that is so big for you guys. You guys can consistently put out a good lineup, and I just think that's huge.
I also
Feels
think
good.
that and Winks, you'll get a little bit of a compliment here.
Clip it. Get ready.
But there's a second part.
I figured. Spin zone.
I do think that we haven't, like, and this is just all credit to Arsenal, because I was looking at something the other day, and we haven't really like recognized just how good this Arsenal team is, like relative to what's happened in the Prem. Excuse me. If you look at City, like the City team that's dominated the last decade, the last 10 seasons after 29 games, every year but the Centurions, where they had 100 points, like Arsenal after 29 games is at 72 points, which is better than every single other like City team at this point, which, yes, we got to give Arsenal some credit. And now Winks, just, I know how you are about generalizations. It is funny how this is that Arsenal team. They're that good. And you were there last night. Henry, you were there last night. So I'm going to be specific instead of generalize. Nate Griffin, I know you're going to be listening. Turn your volume down. If you guys are this good and you show up last night and the first thing you talk about is Man United, I don't know, man. It's Winks. I'm not generalizing, so it's not Arsenal fans. I just think it's a large portion of them that
was it Nate? Was it Nate that said that?
Yeah, it was Nate that said that.
I mean, not to make
just
excuses for him, but probably because the game happened more recently than the Arsenal game, and I'm sure if we went back and checked the receipts of your text, I'm sure you two have already talked about the Arsenal game.
We didn't talk about it once. We didn't talk about it a single time. Not even a one little text message. I only text them when they look like shit.
Interesting. Okay.
So literally,
well, I believe you for sure.
I don't want to speak for Hen, but I know most of us United fans, after having the season, if we were in Arsenal's position, we wouldn't even be thinking about the other teams. And yet here we are.
Not even a little bit.
Week after week, Arsenal cruise, and United's on the mind.
I also don't think about other teams, but for completely different reasons.
You have enough to worry about, bro.
So Arsenal cruise leads. The other game we had late in the slot was Chelsea Villa, which brings a collective group of conversations in itself. But with the match, I mean, Nikki, give me something. We touch in week out about this, and you and I, to a point, get to where we're just like, what do you expect?
Can we get the horn before? Can we get the horn before you start talking about it?
Yeah. But yeah, in regards to the game, 0 for Chelsea, 2 for Villa. Not a great look. I said it last pod. I thought this was a must win. I think once again, and this could just be my opinion, you guys can chime in if you want, like a very interesting lineup that Potter came out with. I think Reece James playing as a right center back instead of a right wing back. I don't understand that move. Cucurella and Mudryk at striker with Havertz sitting underneath. I mean, there's some questionable things. Also the subs. I mean, the list goes on. And I think obviously after the game and a day later, Chelsea then announced the sacking of Graham Potter, our manager. So I think that was kind of in line with what we saw in that game. I think he also made some questionable substitutions. We're down 0-2 and you bring on N'Golo Kante. It's like, we need some goals. And then you bring on Christian Pulisic in the 80th minute. It's like a little late for that. There's some questionable decisions made by him. And I mean, still at the end of the day, I can blame it on substitutions and Potter, but like the players have to win games and score some goals. We had plenty of opportunities in that game to put the ball in the net, and we just did not. The lack of not having a striker is so huge for us. I mean, we spent so much money on wingers, and they're playing balls into other wingers, and we're not scoring goals. So yeah, I mean, the game itself, like, Ollie Watkins, what a finish. Great finish. McGinn, what a finish. I mean, that was a bomb. And it could just be me, but I think Mendy almost has a chance at McGinn's. Yes, it was a bomb, but like, I just think Kepa from anything outside of the 18 it's more than likely going to go in if you pick somewhat of a corner. So yeah, the game itself was not fun to watch. Potter being sacked, I'm not going to say I'm happy because I think anyone losing their job isn't a good thing. And also like the vicious cycle of sacking a manager of Chelsea, I definitely don't want to start going down that path. And obviously with the background behind me, I'm kind of all in on this Nagelsmann chat that they've been talking about. I think he's kind of the best option out there. But yeah, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack from the weekend as a Chelsea supporter.
De Zerbi, the Brighton coach who stayed after Potter, was asked after their match against Brentford about his being second. I think it was one of the first that he'd heard of it. Literally one of the first things out of his mouth was like, I feel bad for the guy, but at some point people have to take a step back and look at the players. Where and what level of accountability can we have? The only reason that these managers change out is because you can, and it makes sense. There's no transfer window for managers. But where are you allowed to simply be like, these guys are not pulling it together themselves, which I also have a bone to pick with. But I see it for Chelsea too. I'll let someone else roll. But
I get that. And obviously, again, I'm going to speak from experience. Last year was that for us. Ragnick isn't a head coach. The whole second half of the season, we were in the exact same conversation as what you two both just said, where you look at the coaching. I mean, Ragnick made some crazy subs and we're like, what the fuck are you doing? But also you do have to blame the players. It is true. What seems like happens, and what's nice is, I mean, literally after today, we don't have to talk about this like Potter reign of Chelsea ever again if we don't want to. But
thank God.
I was watching a really old interview with Rio Ferdinand. Actually, this is so weird, but he talked about the David Moyes era at United right after Fergie left, and he said like the main difference between Fergie and Moyes, obviously other than the accolades and the winningness, is that in the training leading up to a game, Fergie never talked about the opponent. Like, I mean, maybe if you're playing someone like a Robin Van Persie, maybe if you're playing someone like a Patrick Vieira, maybe you'll talk about them. But like United set the tone, they set the pace. We talk about us, our game plan. We don't talk about them. When I look at Graham Potter's lineups, I feel like it's always catered towards the other team. Depending on what the other team's doing, that's how he'll change his lineups, which is just concerning when you want to be a Big Six team. I don't feel like Chelsea had like set the tone. I agree with you, Nick. I saw fucking Reece James in the pregame lineup, which I was like, whatever, you never know what it's going to be. But then during the game, as a right center back, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
He plays the position well, but like going forward, you could even see.
But he's your
like,
attacking.
I know,
outlet.
I agree.
Like that's what it is. I was so confused, and also like you need goals. You bring on Conte. I thought Conte looked amazing.
I agree.
As a right winger, I thought he looked amazing. But I think that this Chelsea team has no leader. Whether that be a coach or a player, has no leader, has no one pulling the strings. And what I think is needed, whether it's Nagelsmann or it's someone else, I think you need a coach comes in who's a dictator kind of.
Thomas Tuchel.
You need a Thomas Tuchel, boys. You need a Thomas Tuchel.
Me and Doze were talking about it beforehand. Like, obviously, I still think firing Thomas Tuchel was a mistake, but I think Potter was such a player pleaser. He was just trying to make everyone happy. I mean, you could see with the inconsistent lineups, he was trying to please everyone, making crazy amounts of subs. And I completely agree with you, Henry. We need someone to come in and like take the reins, almost like Tuchel did when he came and won us that Champions League mid-year. So a German coach being hired mid-year for Chelsea usually turns out pretty well. So I wouldn't be too against Nagelsmann. And also, what a Champions League semi that would be if we sign Nagelsmann and we play Bayern. I mean,
it'd be nuts.
Nikki, give me the good things about Nagelsmann, like because like and that's a genuine question because I don't.
No, to be honest, I did a lot of research today, and obviously everything I was looking at off the bat was about his wife and all of the drama with Bayern, so that wasn't fun to pick through when I was going through this stuff. One thing I will say about Nagelsmann is when he came. The only thing I'm nervous about, like, once again, is when he came into Bayern. The Bayern side was already very talented, but I think he was able to change the lineup and manipulate the team into a style play that he wanted. Obviously, it got him second in the league and sacked, but I also think his wife and all of that drama has a lot to do with that. We all were kind of shocked when he was first let go. But to be completely honest with you, I think of all of the managers that are out there, he's probably our best option. And I'm hoping maybe he can build something around the talent that we have. Because obviously we have all of our eggs in the basket in the Champions League. So buying transfers in the summer is going to be difficult. So hopefully whoever comes into our side can deal with the talent that we just spent a lot of money on. And I'm hoping Nagelsmann's the guy.
That's fair.
I will also say I don't I'm just drawing on his name right now. Oh my God, he was just sacked as well. Why am I drawing on his name? Someone help me. Other manager that was just sacked this weekend, Rodgers. Someone also had hinted that, like, oh, Rodgers ain't a bad coach, and like
he's a great trainer.
Chelsea. I saw it on Chelsea Twitter, and I was like, some people were saying Rodgers, and I was just like, oh my God, I don't know if I would want that at all. Especially coming into a Big Six club like us and a point in time where we need results in the Premier League. I don't know. I don't think he's a bad manager by any means.
I love Chelsea. Chelsea's been my saving grace this season. Every time that I look like shit, Chelsea just goes and becomes a shit club. It becomes a shit club again. I just think it's like what, but like this is a genuine question. Like if you're a manager and a team just spent $400 million on players that you didn't necessarily pick out, that you didn't necessarily want, like, so you're coming into a project that you didn't develop and you're just saying, hey, make these players work. Like, I don't think that there's very many, like, I don't think that Nagelsmann is on Tuchel level. Like, I don't think he's even close. And Tuchel, what he did coming in was amazing and winning in the Champions League that quickly. I don't think there's anybody else that can really do that in the world that's out there. Brendan Rodgers, shit. Like, I'm sorry, that guy is at like they're.
He's just past it. Yeah, he's past it. He's so far.
They are in the relegation zone. So I don't know who Chelsea's going to get, but I don't necessarily think just because Nagelsmann was at Bayern and he's the hot name and like he's been the most rumored, I don't think he may be the right pick. So does that mean that I know who's better? I just don't think that he may like. It's very tough to come into a side without picking your players and then all of a sudden be like, turn a switch.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I was almost thinking it like kind of what you were saying when Tuchel came in and his immediate change in system. Like, I don't expect Nagelsmann. I don't think he's that type of coach to do that. So do I think him joining our team, does that automatically give us the shot at the Champions League? No. I'm hoping that we're not going down the vicious cycle and it would be a long-term decision of bringing him in. I also think like you get a shot at the Champions League. So he gets to test his waters already with a new talented side in the Champions League. There's not a lot of pressure on him to win anymore in the Prem. Like if he wins some games, that's freaking awesome. It's better than what Potter was doing. So like making some showing in the Champions League and then having all of the talent that we have to start the new season and then only have to worry about a few positions that he can bring in and he can because they're big positions. We need center backs and we need a center back and then we need a striker. So like those are two very impactful signings that he could bring in and add identity to our team. So I think there are some pros and cons.
I think Nagelsmann would be a fucking awesome choice for you all. And I think we can look at Bayern, certainly. And, second, sure, advancing the Champions League, yes. But you look at his body of work prior to that with Leipzig and what he did with that team. He was the reason why Leipzig was a powerhouse like they were. Historically, he's a 3-4-2-1 kind of coach, a 3-4-1-2 sometimes kind of coach, loves playing with a big, strong number 9. He did it with Choupo-Moting at Bayern and turned him into a fucking god. He's scoring goals out the ass. And then when he was at Leipzig, he was playing with Poulsen up top, loves a striker that can link play. I call that a return of Romelu Lukaku in the summer. I think that he's your starting striker if Nagelsmann comes in. But I think what what it also does is it clears out a squad of people who can't play that system. When you think about guys in the Leipzig teams, even in the Bayern teams, they're high pressing. They win the ball back really quickly, under 15 seconds. And right now, not everyone in that squad can do that. If Nagelsmann's going to come in, I mean, Hoove, you actually said this about Spurs last week. If Nagelsmann went into Spurs, like, he has to have control of a club. That's what's going to happen at Chelsea too. So the only way I can see Nagelsmann not going to Chelsea is that if Bowley doesn't do something in the recruiting that says you actually have access to these guys. And if you don't want, I'm just going to make up names. Obviously, he's going to want Enzo Fernandez. But if he's like, if you don't want Enzo Fernandez, we'll sell him in the summer. So I think Nagelsmann would be where I would throw all of my eggs, because otherwise you're looking at Luis Enrique, who is awesome, but your squad is not ready for Luis Enrique. Zinedine Zidane, who's also awesome. He's won a lot, but your team isn't as talented as those Real Madrid teams were. And you just don't have a lot of other like top tier options than that. So I don't know. If I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm backing Nagelsmann 100%.
Yeah, I'm definitely on that train as well. And you great points. And to be fair, Zidane, I didn't even think about. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Fucking Zidane. Jeez.
Yeah, and Nikki, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing that I saw today. It was an interview. They interviewed Tuchel and asked him what he thought after hearing the news of Graham Potter. And I thought it was an interesting take. He was like, when I was sacked, obviously it was very emotional. But when I heard about Graham, the club has changed so much, it didn't affect me nearly as much as it did. And I thought that was an interesting take, that like Tuchel is blatantly calling out like the change in the club and all that stuff for being kind of its downfall. So I thought that
Can you imagine that though? Like, you're dating a girl for like ever, and you thought that you were going to get married to her. She breaks up with you, starts dating another guy, and then breaks up with that guy. And then someone comes to you and says like, yeah, what do you think about so-and-so breaking up with so-and-so? It's like,
yeah, that's a
dog,
great point.
like I'm a whole relationship removed. I don't give a fuck.
I also think Tuchel and like, it's just their relationship. Tuchel and Bowley just did not see eye to eye.
No,
So,
yeah,
I definitely like, I think like, yes, it's also like Bowley's fault, but I think Tuchel's also to blame. Like, he needs to be like, oh, you're a new owner, you're American, you're probably not used to this. Like,
that's what I mean.
I don't know.
It's a football brand and somebody who's never done this before. Like,
Yeah.
Of course, they're not going to get along.
Tough.
So we'll definitely touch on other managers too, because Spurs are also without one, and we're looking at the same pool of coaches or managers to bring in. So
that's tough.
That conversation will come around. But yeah, the other game we'll hit on before today's disaster was United Newcastle, which to my annoyance wasn't a 0-0 draw, because that's exactly what I had anticipated. And it just kind of fell away. I'd say I watched a little bit of it, but we'll let the United boys chip in.
I didn't get to introduce myself because I was late to the pod tonight. And what I'll start off with is it's a great day to be a Manchester United fan.
Yeah,
and the reason
Dobbs already got you.
You're good. You can move on.
And the reason for that is because today's a new day and yesterday was yesterday. We're not in yesterday anymore. Yesterday was a difficult day. I want to call back a week ago to what I said about this game, the look ahead for this one. I said this was, the most nervous I've been for a game for a lot of reasons. Scott McTominay, you all know my thoughts on him. We were going to lose the game in the midfield and it wasn't going to be good. And it was exactly that. Watching the game.
Wow.
Bro, Scott McTominay played at 10.
Yeah,
like the kid scores 4 goals for Scotland.
I was
going to
say
don't get me wrong.
He blew his load.
That's not
over the
that is
international
a
break.
crazy choice of words on this podcast. But we got
grow up
kids that listen to this, bro. But so Scott McTominay plays at 10, which makes no sense. Normally we watch him hiding behind defenders in the midfield to get the ball. We watched yesterday him hiding behind midfielders and defenders not getting the ball in the attacking space. Terrible. The other thing is Weghorst. We love Weghorst. Dobes and I are super fans of Weghorst, but at no point are we under the illusion that Weghorst is the number 9 that Manchester United need. I mean, literally Newcastle was playing on the halfway line. because they knew that Weghorst wasn't going to stretch them far. We couldn't break it out of our own half because there was no vertical threat. Ten Hag hasn't been perfect this season, but he's made a lot of choices that I've agreed with. This was a game that kind of threw out the entire game. I just don't think that he made the right choices, and we'll never know the reasons why. But I even think pulling Anthony Hoff in the 60th minute made no sense. He was our best attacking player. We put Sancho out on that wing, which Sancho didn't track back at all. He's the reason for the goal. We pulled off, our center backs in the 83rd minute for no reason. It was just not a great showing from United all around. I think Ten Hag got it wrong this game, unfortunately. And all credit to Newcastle. They put the ball in when we couldn't. St. Maximin, so fun to watch. Surprised he did. Dude, he looked really good. I thought Delo handled them pretty well, to be honest with you, but dangerous every time he got the ball. There wasn't a single time that he got the ball that I didn't think, I wish, we had Aaron Wan-Bissaka in there. So, it was a really tough watch.
We were shit. That's it. We were shit. That's all I can kind of say is that we were terrible yesterday. I can't sit here and say that I didn't tell you guys months ago that if we got down to this point in the season and we had injuries and people were missing, there were some questionable things. No Cassie, no Eriksson. Ten Hag having to sacrifice the principles that he's had consistently by playing people in different positions, not having a six. All the things that I can just sit here and continue to say that you guys will hear me say week after week after we don't look good. We were shit yesterday. Newcastle could have won 4 or 5-0, and we were terrible. Like, there's nothing else to say. There wasn't really anybody that was great on our side. De Gea, a couple big saves per usual, just to keep it at in relative distance. We were shit. No other excuses than that. Nothing else to really take away from that. I mean, we're in a spot in the league now where Hoops heard me say it a bunch, but now all of a sudden they really mean something. Games in hand are meaning a bunch right now. But even with Casemiro's out, we can't afford to continue to look like shit. Every single game for us moving forward in the Prem is sort of like a final, just because we have to solidify top 4. If we solidify top 4, that's all that matters to me the rest of the season. So shit yesterday, but we move.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So we've talked before about Arsenal not being in any other competitions and being able to put 100% focus on the Premier League. Now that you guys are in this position where obviously Champions League, like you guys said at the beginning of the year, was like minimum for you guys, like you consider it a successful season making top 4, knowing that you guys aren't only going to be playing Premier League games throughout the week. It may be a little different right now because Casemiro still has to miss a couple more games, but when he's back, do you guys, I want to reciprocate the question that you were originally asking me, knowing that you're in a position of, just no?
No. The answer is no.
Cool. I appreciate the bluntness. Henry,
Yeah,
can I have an expanded answer?
The answer is no. The answer is no for me. So the question is, do we hold back on like the extra competition?
I'm not going to ask that because I don't like the way that question is worded. I'm more asking like, how do you guys play your lineups differently to get like the maximum result from every competition?
We're 2 weeks away from Eriksson back, Casemiro back, 3 weeks away from probably Garnacho back. So it's just that a bad week and a half
stretch.
Right now.
Injuries.
No, it's the suspension. It's Casemiro's stupid fucking red card. Casemiro switch it. He's the key to everything. It's not
Prison FC.
I'm not even blaming Eriksson being out, not even blaming Garnacho being out. It's that one piece that allows Sabitzer to play an 8 and Bruno to play a 10 that changes the entire way we play. We lost the midfield. So literally 2 weeks, Cassie's back, and then you add the guy that leads our team in assists and Eriksson back. We have a rotation then.
Genuinely, Lucas, I think for me when I look ahead to the rest of the season, Chelsea's going to get rescheduled. United versus Chelsea. We also play Tottenham. Which Tottenham will be in a top 4 race. We don't know what they're going to look like, obviously, by then, but they're going to be in a top 4 race. And then Chelsea, who knows? It could be a new manager situation where they look really good, much differently than, the previous part of the season. But looking at every other fixture that we have, we should win. We should. which makes me feel good. I think in the other competitions you have, Brighton in an FA Cup when you're getting down to the wire, you're going all out. Yeah, I mean, think about it outside of like normal this time of the season. When you get to like the quarterfinals, semifinals of a competition, you're playing your dogs no matter what. That is what it is. Like every team does that because you want to win a trophy. But looking at the rest of the Prem fixtures, we should win. So I don't think that we really change it up much, to be honest with you. I am extremely frustrated, like as a fan, like what Dobes just said, that whenever Casemiro's out, whether it be injury or suspension, most of the time suspension, our whole team does fall apart. It's really frustrating that like our success is contingent on one player. I think that the only like club that is like that in the entire Prem is Tottenham with Harry Kane. I think you take Harry Kane out of that lineup and Tottenham's in a terrible place in this season. And similarly here, whenever Casemiro's not in, I don't feel confident at all. And that's just not the place that I want to be. But to answer your question, I don't think that we change it up much. We play the guys that we have available, depending on when the fixtures happen with the injuries. What's nice is that for the FA Cup and the Europa League, barring any crazy thing happening, Casemiro will be there. He'll be back in the lineup, so that should be good. It makes me feel much more confident with no matter who's next to him. But I actually don't think that it changes all that much.
So the United lads took a tough one. And yeah, man, I saw a stat. Gosh, it had to be in the first 30, 40 minutes. And one of those little stats that pops up under the scoreboard. And Weghorst had touched the ball 5 times.
Gross.
That was insane.
Gross.
Any player to have touched the ball that few times on the field is an issue.
Barring
you're right.
Erling Haaland. He can touch the ball 5 times and score 5 goals.
I was going to say he's the exception. I mean, the lack of connection between our back four and like the Woods have been doing the what do we call it? Like the dog shift for weeks now.
Yeah.
He gets no service. He just works his ass off. He doesn't touch the ball. And then you add a shit midfield, and Scott McTominay is 10. He's not going to get too many touches.
Interestingly enough, though, Lucas, like to your point about like the other competitions, I honestly think being in the other competitions right now is saving a bit of the sanity in the fan base. And the reason that I say that is if you were to look at our last 3 Prem games, we've taken 1 point out of possible 9. Got smashed by Liverpool. Could have gotten smashed by Newcastle if De Gea didn't do what he did. And then we tied, who was it, Southampton, when we went down to 10 men. So 1 point out of our last 9 at this point in the season is inexcusable, but I think that it gets a little lost whenever we're advancing in other competitions. So I think that the other competitions are saving the fan base a little bit, because if we were in a position where we were out of Europe, out of the FA Cup, I think I'd be losing my fucking marbles right now as a fan.
I was going to say, Dobes was saying he can't believe that United lost to Liverpool 7-0, but when Casemiro's not on your guys' side, are you nervous that you're going to lose every game like that? Like, I don't know. Like, I think Casemiro is such a huge part to your guys' team. And like, when you guys are playing and when you have the momentum, it's I will admit, it's I don't want to say fun to watch, but you guys are like interesting to watch. You guys are running it all cylinders, and Rashford scoring goals for you.
You're not watching. You're not turning on TV and saying, "Hey, that's interesting."
I will when it's fucking United, but
I would hate to have a team where if one player is missing, everything falls apart. And I think that just shows that you guys are going to need to do some beefing up in the summer.
Hope so, man.
So that inevitably when he gets another red, you'll be able to kind of shift things around in a way that'll work. But
I'll have my little
we'll see what
towel
happens
on my head, and I'll be fucking sitting there with my money cheering, bro.
And whoa.
Woo.
So to the other team that is also miserable, that if they lose one player, they would be drastically worse. Spurs and Everton. Yeah, we watched that game wrap up not even 4 hours ago. And yeah, I've got thoughts. We've got
little dyke ball.
We've got ideas. So Where do you want to start? Conte's gone. Stellini's still in. That's the same style of play. So he played the lineup that Conte called from his shower in Italy. And in the same fashion formation.
Say, you think he's in his ear?
Tactically,
100%, bro.
There's just no way he's not, because when he was gone, Stellini's doing the same thing. He's a foot soldier. So
Conte's still your manager, but not your manager. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, this time he's just having 2 glasses of red at his house in Italy before the.
Hey, I've seen you with 3 glasses of red, and you do pretty well. So you never know. Maybe give them another.
I tell you what, I was saucy that one night. Goal, 2 nutmegs off of 3 glasses of red. That was some good football. But yeah, the Spurs didn't do that tonight. They did have 1 goal on a Harry Kane penalty. That was a really well won, frankly, by Romero, all after a Doucouré red card for a slap to the face from Harry Kane, which you can't do. Harry Kane wound him up. It was some expert level shithousery for sure. And at that point, you're up 1-0, 65th minute against Everton, bottom of the table. What do you do? What do you want to do? They've got 10 men. What would you get? If I laid this out like a trivia match and gave you 4 options, I said, would you A, hold the ball and possess? Would you B, drop it in and block low against 10 men? Would you C, try and see it out with a second goal? You would take A or C. You wouldn't drop in against 10 men Everton, who are literally fighting for their lives for a point to get out of the relegation finish. So that's what Spurs did. Stellini scored 1 goal off a sketchy little Harry Kane pen, expertly placed and finished, I will say. But and then they're defending against a 10-man Everton. They bring Lucas Moura on, who again is on his 7th to last club game, instead of Danjuma, who was brought in probably by the club and not Conte, apparently. And Stellini still holds a grudge against the kid for even just being there. And I mean, Lucas Moura spent 5 minutes on the pitch before getting himself sent off. So
it's a good little cameo.
A great little cameo. Brazilian flair is what that was. And I it was just a bad challenge, But again, up 1-0, 88th minute, 10-man versus 10-man against Everton. What do? You let Keane take 5 steps in the middle and score an absolute fucking worldie.
A rocket.
It was a rocket. It was a rocket.
I think it was a super smart tackle to make too. Again, being up 1 man and up 1-0 in the game.
For sure. And if he wasn't in the position that he was in, which was Hugo and Eric Dyer fiddling their balls in the back line, then there's just no scenario where Lucas Moura has to make that challenge. Lucas Moura's fighting for his life to touch the ball because the back line is I have so many words in my head that I can't say. Just idiots when it comes to playing out of the back. I'm playing out of the back against a 10-man Everton, and they still are getting choked out. That's a problem. Lucas Moura was in a poor position and made a really shitty tackle. But you know what? What is it? It's the same. Everything's the same. Every day is gray. Cars are gray. The clouds are gray. I'm a dog. No. It's tough.
I do want to pick your brain aside from the game today, and obviously with all the stuff that we were talking about earlier with Nagelsmann and Chelsea. Like, let's say, I don't even want to say that, but like as a Tottenham supporter, who are you guys, like who do you want as the manager, and who is your front runner, I would say, that you would want at Tottenham?
You guys fucked everything. So
I was actually gonna say that this is the worst thing to happen to Spurs is Chelsea sacking Potter.
That's what I wanted him to say.
You guys fucked everything. I needed Graham Potter to have a job for at least another month. But realistically, at the end of the day, you've got this short list of guys, and we're picking from the same short list of world-class managers. And your guys' project is maybe a little more enticing just because you've got the guys there and there's some real talent in the squad. There's not a soul on this earth that would sanely want to take this Tottenham job. There's no director of football because he just got kicked. He's banned for a suspension from his time in Juventus, which the club was like, oh yeah, that won't be a problem. He had some statement after Conte left. They released like a 2-minute video of him defending the club, and then literally the next day banned from world football for 18 months. And they released some club statement about appealing it.
It's so funny, bro. It's the funniest thing.
The tone deafness within, and now everyone gets to at least watch it firsthand, right? We're not. It's not Conte's fault. It is the players' fault. I do think 80% of it, for the most part, I think they're soft, and I think they're led by Eric Dyer. But it's who's watching this self implosion. It's like, you know what? That's a great job. Well, there's one person, and his name's Mauricio Pochettino, and he's the only guy in the planet Earth who would sanely say yes to coming back into this position, because he's the only guy that ever gave a shit, and that's why Tottenham fans love him. But I come back to the same point. Who fucking cares if he's going to be gone halfway through next year? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the manager is. We're doing this thing again where Daniel Levy decides that he wants to play football manager on his computer in real life and sucks at it. And he sucks at it.
Who speaking of Levy, like, didn't think I'd ever be defending a Spurs manager, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that Pochettino's the only manager that gave a shit about the team, because I feel like Conte wouldn't have came out in that post-game interview and said what he would have said if he didn't give a shit about the club and want them to succeed. Obviously, it's sometimes tough to see that in managers across all teams when their team's kind of in a decline like
Great
that,
point.
even though you guys are still in top four. And you know, it's tough to ignore that sometimes the lineups that they put out, despite injuries or whatever, make it feel that way. But I feel like if all of these managers who are getting a try at a Big Six club or a team in the Premier League nonetheless, I feel like they all care. It's just like they just get drained by the club, by the front office not supporting them. And I think that we've seen it across all of our clubs at one point or another. So that blows, and that sucks for you guys that you guys are in this position, you know, but you can look forward to the F1 track at the stadium.
I think the biggest difference is Conte. You know, Nuno was an outlier. That guy's not even a real human being to me. But Jose and Conte and Poch of the three most relevant managers, and Conte and Jose both took that job with the same idea. I'm going to fix this club. This is going to be a challenge for me, a world champion winning, title winning manager, to be like, this is a top 6 club. I'm going to come in. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to see what the issues are. And realistically, with sane owners, both of those guys could do it. I have no doubt in my mind that Jose could have done more with the squad when he had them, and Conte had more with this team. But Mauricio Pochettino, I think when he left, he felt like he let the club down. He felt like it was an unwritten chapter of, there's glory here. We just need to put it together to figure out. Whereas Conte and Jose saw it as, this is a task. This is a fun little event for my career. You know, Pochettino had a decent career up until then. But that's at this point, anytime he's mentioned, it was his time with Spurs that are really the keys to why he's still a candidate anywhere else. And he did well with PSG, but I'm 90% confident I could go to PSG and coach them to a championship. So it's weird and it sucks. And I do think Conte cared, and I do think Jose cared. And I agree completely that his outburst was so indicative of him just being fed up with the fact that he's the one that has to face the media every day to explain these problems with Tottenham Hotspur, when in reality, he's watching everything behind the scenes like, hey, this is fucked. Everything back here's a shit show. I'm the guy that has to do this, and I'm going to say something because I can, and I'm on my way out. So, that, you know, that's my 2 cents. Why would you let Stellini still coach this team currently? Why was that a decision? We're playing Conte ball. It's Conte's situation. Nothing's changed. Let Ryan Mason do it and change the formation at least. Like,
you want Potter?
Fuck no. I don't want any more Chelsea managers, bro. I'm sick of those guys. I'm over them. Get rid of them.
You've had them before.
I think
Yeah.
the last thing that I kind of want to say on for Spurs is if you don't follow Young Yid on Twitter, like I didn't watch a second of the Spurs game today. Like I was sitting there, like working in meetings, like scroll Twitter and like I gotta read like Hooves tweets at the last like 7 hours because it's like you don't have to watch a game and you know it's gonna happen. 7 hours ago, it's gonna be a Hugo Holler tonight, then, huh?
Yeah,
Player on this team.
I liked this one. I got no love on Twitter, but I
Get in
said
front-
Spurs put this
Get in
consistent
front of the
pit in my
ball.
stomach. It's like Spurs put this pit in my stomach, like this work email you've been waiting on every week, and it could be positive or negative. And at the end, I said that was a shit email.
I didn't watch a second of the game. I just watched Young Yid on Twitter. I knew exactly.
Yeah, just going.
It's something, but like the fall point every week is we're fighting for Europe. Damn it! If there's one thing that someone's gonna be attracted to this club, it's that they're gonna maybe play in the Champions League.
Bro, I think you're gonna get like an up and coming manager from like a French team. I mean, who De Zerbi or whatever at Brighton right now. That's what happened with him. Like he came from wherever he came from. Sorry that I can't even comment on where he came from, but he was not like a big six at his previous club. So I think that's what's gonna happen. I don't think that you're gonna attract like a top talent. But you know what would be lit if Levy is out there playing Football Manager, you should just hire Will Still.
Yeah, Will
the guy
Still
that actually
or,
plays Football Manager.
Yeah, he would be pretty good.
Be sick.
Will Still. There's talks of Vincent Company, which is cool. That it's just who's gonna be what? Who's gonna be the guy? And it
Patrick
doesn't
Vieira.
matter.
He's free.
I don't know if Vieira would take a job coaching Tottenham.
That would be a wild scenario. That would be a wild
I don't see
scenario.
that happening.
Guys, Tuber already made my day. He told me that no manager would take the Tottenham job over Chelsea job, and that made my day. So we're good.
I mean, do I speak?
No, you're right. And I loved you here.
You said if I speak.
It's an insane thing to say. Look at the table. Look at,
I know.
One of the key issues is why in the fuck would Harry Kane stay at this club? What does he have? What does he have waiting for him at Tottenham Hotspur?
Gone.
Where does he go? That's the conversation, and what team could realistically afford him? We're talking now. We're getting into details, but from my point of view, a Spurs fan who's watched this guy play Europa games in 2012, what is he doing here, man? Go win something. Fucking, I'm so dejected. I'm so over it. Like, where do you go from here? You take his money and you spend it on another 7 players like we did with Bale, and 2 of them panned out, and one of them plays for fucking Man United and is their assist leader. So, yeah, no one knows what they're doing. That's
moral of the story.
Moral of the story. But yeah, so that was the Prem wrap up, as joyous as it always is. And then we do always want to step into our local St. Louis City SC. Took a tough 1-0 loss to Minnesota United, the Loons or something, or whatever they were chanting behind me. Yeah, a team that has a collective, what was it, 0.3 goal XG over the course of 6 games, who got bailed out by a penalty that was cheaply given away by Kyle Hebert. Nonetheless, there was not much attacking threat. Boys, we tapped into this one, and it was a tough watch.
Yeah, it was really not good. So I don't know. I maybe they've done this before, and correct me if they have, and I just didn't notice it. But like 25 minutes into this game, we like changed formations. We like strayed completely away from what we've seen of like a 4-4-2 or like a 4-2-3-1 that's really narrow, and we just abandoned it completely and went to like a 4-4-2 diamond, which just didn't work. Like, period. It just didn't work. What we saw with Minnesota that was different than every other team we've played so far is they really sat in a low block. I think, early in the game, I called out, their center defensive midfielder. I don't think he's great on the ball, but he was everywhere that he needed to be. His positioning was outrageous, blocked off every single pass that we had moving forward. But it was just like a weird game from Carnell. Like, I thought that some of his subs that he made just didn't fit the game. One of them, Jackson, came on and this is out on the wing. He's electric going forward, and we sat him in as like an 8. It just was not at all what I expected to see as a fan. And we had no service. We had nothing. The only time we looked dangerous the entire game was in the last 4 minutes of stoppage time in the second half, when we were really, really pushing, and we decided to serve a ball in for the first time all game. So I think what we've seen in the first 6 games with City is that we're really dangerous when we have the wing play. Butch made a comment that sometimes our wingers are more narrow when we're defensive, which is fine. But as soon as we get the ball, we're really expansive. We play wide. We get guys into 2-on-1s defensively that they don't like. And we did none of that this game. So it was almost like a throwaway game. I thought the ref was a fucking wank. I thought that
he was miserable.
Dude, I mean, some of the calls he made and then some of the calls he didn't make were just absolutely beyond me. I think that the penalty that we gave away was a clear pen. It was a completely mistimed tackle. I don't think Hebert expected, our right back to touch the ball when he did. Completely took out the forward. It was the only shot they had all game. It was the only shot on goal. So they weren't an attacking threat at all. I think Minnesota's plan was just to sit in, be annoying as fuck, and
let us make the mistake.
Yeah, and try to get a point. I don't think they came in wanting 3. I think they wanted 1, and they got 3 of them. So really disappointing loss.
Yeah, Henry, I think you brought up a good point. One thing I noticed going into the game was Minnesota, as well as us, were not possession-heavy teams. So I was really intrigued to see who was going to dominate possession in this game. And obviously, we kind of took the reins a little bit. It wasn't like we were dominant in possession for the entire game. But I definitely think we, took a hold of the possession more of the time during that game. And I think that is why our change in formation happened. It's something that we weren't used to. I think both teams coming into this game played very similar style plays. I also think it's just Berkey not getting a touch. I think he's getting a lot of heat right now for not impacting the game and not saving the penalty. But I also wanted to defend him. I thought his distribution with his feet was very good. This game, I thought he made some really good passes. But yeah, only seeing 1 shot and it's a pen. I feel like the criticism that he is receiving online is a little too harsh.
Most of that is probably from people who don't know footy.
True.
So
yeah,
you got to take that with a grain of salt. All these guys are going to, I think that this is a first for Berkey, at least. This is the first look into probably many criticized instances of him, not doing something right. But I think that, all these guys are going to have to learn, whether they've been in the league a while or are kind of new, up and coming. They're going to have to kind of learn to shut that stuff out. And I have a feeling that they'll do a good job of that. That if, he should know that that's not on him.
100%.
And Henry, maybe you can speak a little bit more on this because you were at the game, but the energy looked different, in my opinion, than when I went. I just feel like there wasn't as much grit and grind to our play. I think we talked about it before the podcast. I wanted St. Louis Park or City Park to be like a fortress. I wanted that energy every single game, and I wanted the energy from the fans to be replicated on the field by the way we play. I didn't see that level that I saw when I went to the game, and I just didn't know if you had a take on kind of the atmosphere at the game.
I think it seemed like everyone was it's funny to say, but it seemed like everyone was really frustrated. I think that Minnesota came in and frustrated the way that we played, and I think the fans felt it. I mean, it is funny, the people that Paige and I were around, they were yelling things at the ref and the players and stuff, but everything that they were saying was so basic but so true. I mean, I don't know what you guys could see from TV, but it was almost as if in the second half, we were allergic to attacking down the left-hand side. I couldn't tell you how many times, whether it was Tim Parker or Kyle Hebert, had the ball at our halfway line, and our left back was like all the way up clear with the defensive line from Minnesota, and we just refused to play a diagonal ball. It was just really frustrating to watch, and especially in the second half when like the supporter section was watching the way that we were attacking, you could just see it so clearly where it would break down, and it did feel like it felt defeated in the stadium.
Yeah.
And I think the fans,
completely.
the players felt it. I'm sure they were frustrated as fuck playing, but it was just a frustrating atmosphere.
Since the ref was so stop and go, and Minnesota took every single advantage of a stoppage to make sure that there was no sort of a resurgence from the fans, or there was a lot of
momentum shift.
They did a really good job of stifling any sort of outside influence at just the pace at which they played. And credit to them. We have not seen the low block. And I think we are one of those teams that aren't necessarily going to be super great at passing between the low blocks. So unfortunately, that could definitely be a strategy for teams going forward against us, because it was pretty effective, even if they weren't offensively a threat at all. Like miserable to watch that one goal be scored and us not put anything back. But the ref sucked so much air out of that stadium. He was just getting hate the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, you guys kind of all touched on most of the points about the game. I think the one thing that I've noticed is like being at the game, going to City Park is amazing. It's great. Atmosphere is like awesome. Great to have a few beers. Not great for like wanting to break down the game, seeing what's going on, seeing how tactics work, and like being able to watch on TV Saturday. Like this is like me just like diving into full like St. Louis City fan, like I would United. Like, because I'll continuously be critical of United, and I'll continuously be critical of City.
Right.
And this is one of those where it's not like that, like these stats of us not having possession, Minnesota not having possession, are like a foreign secret. Like you have to be able to come into a game with a plan and how to adjust your style, how you want to play, how you think you're going to break a team down the way you can. And the 4-4-2 was not it. Like it was not it. Even from the start, it was not it. Like Klaus and Giacchini, two guys that oftentimes like to get in behind, run behind. He's quicker than Klaus, and they can balance each other on the counterattack. Klaus can be that second man run. Like it looked uncomfortable, us trying to build up with just two guys in the center midfield, just matching their two and trap. I can't think of the other guy's name, maybe Frank Pan or however you said it, number 7. But like the setup we had in that game and the changes we made are what lost us that game. Like a manager has to be able to like analyze the game, see what his team is doing well, see what's not working, and make that switch that's going to change the game. And I don't think that like Carnell did that. Like I truthfully don't think he did that. We've mentioned the formation change. I don't think too much is on the players. I mean, I think the back four was great, but I just think he didn't put them in the best positions to succeed. Like we didn't see Klaus have too many chances. We didn't see like Lowen most of the time. I think he's most dangerous as a 10 in and around the box. Too many times he's picking the ball up from Parker, or he's picking the ball up from Hebert 5 yards away from him, versus where he is most suited in and behind the strikers. So, I mean, obviously disappointed to sort of see us not get 3 points and get a win. But I think this is another learning moment where Carnell has to continue learning and adjusting, because like you're going to play against teams that have low block. It's just footy. It's how it happens. And you have to have a plan to play against a team that sits down like that. And he just didn't have that. And it showed it from the first minute of the game, in my opinion.
I think it also shows a little bit of a lack of depth of guys who can be creative that aren't named Klaus or Lowen. Blom came on, and we're all fans of him in this chat, like, breaking up play. But he was the 6 and couldn't pick up the ball and pass it forward the way that he needed to, which is why Lowen was dropping so deep. So I also wonder if this game was also a little bit of like, maybe Lutz needs to do something of like a deep lying playmaker quicker. Bring someone in who can do that job because if we're going to play against teams that do this, and it's not going to be run and gun, and we don't have anyone who can do that, or maybe Lowen does drop deep and we get a 10 who is also what he needs to be in that space. So Dubs, I think if that's spot on, you have to have a plan, and hopefully the coaching staff, hopefully Lutz is learning just as much from this game as we are, and hopefully more, I should say. But hopefully there's a plan moving forward for the next couple, because the games aren't going to get easier. And the chatter that's going to happen is if we lose the next one is that it was a fluke. 5 games, it was a great run, but it was a fluke. Now they've been figured out. We have to come back and win this weekend.
I was going to say this next game is definitely a big statement game for us.
Yeah.
After that performance, I think
Seattle.
you hit it right on the head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to have to put in a shift. I also think hopefully it'll light a little fire underneath us and the pressure's kind of off of that staying undefeated or all that kind of drama that was surrounding that.
Yeah, a bit of a healthy humbling, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too critical, but I'm curious of your guys' thoughts. Like in terms of like watching our wingers, like Ostrak and Stroud, like I've watched us play against other teams, and I'm gonna butcher his name because I don't watch MLS, but Frank Pang, or however you say his name, number 7 from Minnesota. Like almost every single time he picked up the ball, like he looked like he was gonna make something happen, whether it was create for himself or create for somebody else. I don't think our 2 wingers do that. Like, yes, they put themselves in good positions. I think they both have a single goal on the season. Stroud has scored and Ostrak has scored. Like, I don't think either of those guys, and I don't know if it's just the system we're playing where they're told to hang back because they got 2 guys in front of them or what it is, but like they don't seem threatening at all to where Klaus is a big frame, 6'4" guy. Like, let's get to the byline, let's whip in crosses, to where it just seems like those 2 are not, I don't know if it's timid or scared, but it seems like they're not ready to take the chance when the ball's at their feet and be a out and out winger and beat somebody and get a ball in or beat somebody and get a shot. It seems like
they all want to be inverted. They all want to cut in and like combine.
It's very frustrating to watch because instead of take the space out wide and try to combine, it's like they either go backwards because they don't have that option, or it's just frustrating to watch.
I called out Ostrak because I think he's insane on a dribble. I think he's 100%. Unbelievably technical and really, really, really good with his feet and fun to watch with the ball. But you're right. He was in field so often, and all of our dangerous attacks and a majority in the previous game, he's not there. He's not in the box with the tangle. So I think that's a great shout. And truthfully, man, at the end of the day, I think we got out coached. They had a plan, they had a system, they knew what they were going for, they knew what they were going to do, they executed it really well. Carnell subs, we've all kind of made comments about them just being interesting, even in the games that we've won. But for him to make those changes in the 60th is still on brand for what he's going for. And I don't get the Gioacchini won't let him go more than 60 minutes thing.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Play him out wide.
So
like I don't get like switch formations. Play him as your 7 out left, or play him as out right. Like where he's dangerous and can run
inverted. Yeah, if you're gonna let them play on the inside, then why not him?
He's not scared to take people on or to try to try something and lose the ball, which sometimes like that's what you have to have as a confident player. It's not going to come off every single time. And we miss that threat as a winger. Yeah. And he kind of gets lost at time as almost like playing that false 9 next to Klaus, to where like I think Klaus is he's a perfect 9. Let him play as an out and out 9 and put Gioacchini a place where he's going to receive the ball like 10 times more than he is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the recap on that one, outcoached. It's a long season. We've started hot, and I have full faith. I have no issues with anything yet. We watched our first tough match, and that's the game of football, man. You win some, you lose some. Sometimes you get outcoached. Sometimes your players don't show up. But the reaction from all the players on social media that I followed has really kind of been like, this is a blip. We're going to be just fine. So I do like to see that. But moving on here, we have Dobes set ready to go for our flowers and showers section. Dobes, take it away.
I'm happy to do it, fellas. And I'm actually going to stay in the MLS here. So I don't know how many of you guys have, followed MLS or, followed sort of the players that have come from SLU and gone to play in the MLS. But this past year, Simon Betcher was drafted number 16 overall to Vancouver, played at SLU, watched him the past couple of years, was number 9 for the SLU team. Just an out and out, proper 9 finisher. And he actually set the record in the MLS for quickest player ever to score his first 4 goals. He scored 4 goals in the 87 minutes that he has played so far this year in the MLS. So he 100% earns my flowers. Just cool to see. He's from Connecticut, but just cool to see a player that came from SLU. 87
Great
minutes.
shout.
87 minutes in the MLS, 4 goals. And so that's my flowers for the week. Got to shout out to a St. Louis kid who I've watched play. And the flowers
Man was
pretty
fun
easy.
to watch at SLU.
Fun to watch at SLU. And my flowers is pretty easy. We talked about it a bunch. But it's Graham Potter. It's Shower, excuse me. It's Graham Potter. I feel like he's a guy where, yes, he deserved to be sacked, but I also think that he was put in an extremely, extremely shitty situation. And I think that he's a fantastic coach. I mean, we saw it at Brighton, and you're getting brought in middle of the season, new ownership, spending all this different money, all these different egos. I still think that Graham Potter has the ability to be a success at a big club one day. I just don't think at this point in that situation he was ready. Do I agree that he should be fired? Yeah, I think he probably should be fired at this moment. But at the same time, like, I do feel for the guy because I think he's a proper manager. We saw what we saw in the Brighton team that is still mostly his team now. But got to give the showers to him just because he did get sacked and is definitely in a tough spot moving forward. So that's my showers.
See ya.
Yeah, Nick, I thought your comment earlier on him being a player manager or a player pleaser was a good shout. I think you can get away with that a lot sometimes, and especially at a club like Brighton, to where you do need to match what you're going to do that day against the team that you're upcoming with, and not the Fergie way of setting the tone, setting the expectations of the match. But yep, those are the flowers and showers. Thank you, Dobes. Couple games coming up this week and weekend. We do have Liverpool Chelsea tomorrow on Tuesday this week. Lord.
New manager bounce.
What do we expect?
Mid-table derby, baby.
Mid-table derby, new manager bounce. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. Coming into this, I was kind of excited. I haven't really been excited for a game of Chelsea in the Premier League for a little bit. But Liverpool obviously hasn't been playing that well. I'm hoping that we do get some kind of new manager bounce. Obviously, I'm very intrigued with the lineup that we're going to be putting out because I'm interested to see if it is still like the Graham Potter-esque lineup or if it's going to be a drastic change. But of course, all of this went to the wayside when I saw who is the referee for the match tomorrow, which is Anthony Taylor. So everyone flip a coin because there's going to be some controversial call, some awful VAR call, possibly a red. Who knows? So I have no idea.
I really wish he wasn't the ref, just so you guys could just be shit on your own and not have Anthony Taylor as an excuse. I do think this is sort of like, this is a big game for both teams, though. Like, Liverpool is trying to sort of break the skid they've been on and make their way up into like some sort of Conference League or Europa League place. And Chelsea's just fired their manager and is 100% sort of spiraling at the moment to where, like, they need a result. Big Champions League is coming up and there's no time to waste in terms of trying to find form. So big game for both teams. Just one big shit sandwich going on tomorrow. I don't really know who's going to win the game. I'm going to go for 2-2. It's going to be the final.
I'm going to go for a Liverpool win because I mean, Klopp is still the head coach. He's, I don't know if he's the longest serving, but he has to be the longest serving manager in the Prem right now. If Liverpool loses to Chelsea, call it a new manager bounce, call it whatever. It's just there. I mean, I think Klopp's the next one to go. So
no
I know
shot.
that
no shot.
They lose to an 11th place Chelsea who doesn't have a manager, who just sacked their manager the day before or 2 days before, I guess now. Liverpool has to win. Like, if they lose, I just don't know how you recover from that.
I think good Klopp, and I truly think that the only way that Klopp would go is if Liverpool had their replacement set in stone. Like, that's what I just think that, like, that's what, like, Liverpool hate their owners all they want. They've been pretty decent about backing Klopp, pretty decent about listening to his decisions, pretty decent about, like, for the last couple of years. And, like, great clubs There's very few of them in the world, like your Real Madrids, like your Bayerns. There's like, I'm not even considering United. I don't even think there's any clubs in the Prem that are properly run, but like you don't fire your manager until you have a replacement. And I think that's why I just can't see Liverpool, regardless of even if they lose, I can't see Klopp going. There's no way.
I think that's an interesting shout though, Henry, because you do have a good point. Like they're out of European competition right now. They have to get results in the Premier League. Like I think that's a great shout. And I've always been on the case that this is the 7th year for Klopp, so he's probably on his way out regardless. And I think Liverpool, I hate even saying that because obviously we're the team that's playing them. But yeah, I'm seeing a 1-0 victory for Chelsea. That's my prediction.
Oh, I think it's going to be a barn burner, bro. I'm going 4-2 Liverpool.
Jesus Christ.
I truthfully have no idea what to expect.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm in the same boat.
I have no idea.
I'm not. As the betting man, I am staying so far away from this game.
Probably a great show.
Because both teams on their best day can look great, but it happens so few and far between that you never know what you're going to get every single week.
Very true.
I agree.
The other match. Go ahead.
No, you're good. We can move on.
The other one we've got is United Brentford, which is rather tasty after Brentford's match with Brighton this weekend, which was an electric factory, first off. But Dobes had some words for this one.
I think it's a must-win game. I think it's one of those where Brentford is a very good team. We've seen how they played. I mean, their game against Brighton this weekend, 3-3. Brighton.
What a game that was! I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that earlier, but holy shit!
If that was if that was like United Liverpool, it would be one of the greatest, or like a Chelsea Arsenal, like any top 6 club, we would all be talking about it. It literally was like, what was it? 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, like just back and forth. Brentford had 3 different lead changes. Like, what a game!
So Brentford's good.
Moral of the story.
Brentford's good. We lost to him 4-0 early in the year. I do think the one thing that has me a little bit excited about this game, and it's like a knock on fucking wood, because United does have one training session before, so Martial could get hurt. But like Martial being able to start and play as a 9 will drastically change the way that we can play. Because he can combine better than he can actually get in behind and make those darting runs that can free up space for Bruno Fernandes, that can free up space in the midfield, free up space for Anthony to cut in. So I don't want to say that I'm necessarily confident, because I 100% respect Brentford, as I think everybody should, because we've seen the side that they've built. But at the same time, like I want to consider this just sort of a must win, because this rights the ship from this weekend, says international break is over. If there was some sort of a hangover, it's gone now, and we're back hitting the ground running. I could see this. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything. I think like a 2-1, 1-0. Very interesting to see the lineup. I think Fred has to come back into the team. We saw what we missed with him. So I would love to see Fred maybe as a 6, Sabitzer and Bruno. But we'll see. I mean, with the fixture congestion, you never really know what's going to come with the lineup, especially in the midfield. But just sort of have to trust that Ten Hag's gonna make the right decision.
The only other point I'll add to it is that it's at home. We typically play pretty well at home, and we're typically not very good away. Brentford started that this season with us not being good away, but I'm hoping that that being at home is going to change that. And if Martial plays, I will believe it when I see it. But I think those two things together have me feeling more confident than if it were the other way around.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see if your guys' Casemiro list side is as bad as we have been talking about recently. So hopefully you guys have a bounce.
And, fellow gambler Ivan Toney continues to play as far as I know.
Dude, nothing's real.
I know. Real. So I was about to mention it. Like, I've been deep in Chelsea Twitter of recent once we sacked Potter, and I've seen like people wanting Ivan Toney to Chelsea, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like all of this stuff with his gambling stuff, like
dude.
how? I know he's he's world class. I'm just saying,
Thomas
tomorrow he
could
be suspended.
For rape. Of course, they're gonna let a fucking guy that's out on
Degenerate.
gambling. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, not to be pointing fingers here either, but that Marcos Alonso cat had a hell of a career at Chelsea.
Sure did.
I never
He
appreciated
won
that
a
man.
Champions
Never
League.
wanted him wearing.
Nick said,
never have I ever celebrated a Marcus Alonso goal. I've never done
Never
it.
have I ever. That is fact.
I bet 183 gambling charges get thrown to the wayside for 25 goals. So
Yeah, exactly.
But that will wrap just a quick recap of what we're seeing in the future, and we are going to end it on a Factor Cap edition brought to us by our friend Henry Wind. Hen, you got something for us?
Yes. I'd like for you a cap. What? Stop.
It's probably
Stop,
already about
man.
United Cap.
Marcus Rashford. I'm just kidding. It is. We're seeing into the future here, fellas. It's July 1st, 2023. There's a lot of hype around this like Chelsea squad. There's Lukaku back. There's been some transfers out. There's been some pre-agreements, and Nkunku's arriving. And their tour gets announced. They're heading off to it, and Jurgen Klopp is heading up the Chelsea Football Club. Factor Cap.
Cap is
Can we
fuck.
all on 3 cap?
Go ahead and take that cap off your head and put it right back on, bro.
Yeah.
Say, Hen,
Bro.
can I hear the argument the other way?
Yes.
You need to give us some reasoning for me to even consider answering.
The only thing that I can see, and I'm probably missing something that Hen will touch on, is like they've had 2 head coaches in the last year between Tuchel and Potter. So I don't like that. I would, knowing the Chelsea front office, I would never count out the possibility of whoever you guys bring on, him getting fired for some stupid reason, and then Klopp is done after this season because it's his 7th season, and we know how that goes with Dortmund. So I'm gonna say cap 2, but you could definitely make an argument that the Chelsea front office could be a big reason for him even being in the conversation of becoming a Chelsea manager, because you never know the next time they're going to have to be looking for another one.
Klopp just needs to be rumored to Spurs or something like that, and all of a sudden Chelsea will
Bully's going to say,
snag his. Name another manager, something like, and this is genuine. Name another manager that has gone from a top 6 club straight to another top 6 club rival in the same like 10-year decade.
Did Mourinho do it?
But
Mourinho
like
went from Chelsea to United.
At the same, like back to back.
Yeah.
He did not go from Chelsea directly to United.
Yeah, he did.
I don't
did
think
he
in
not?
the same year, but I think
No, he was United. What's it called? Real. He came
I don't think
straight.
so.
I'm looking it up.
There's no way he came straight.
He got sacked. He took like a year off, and then
yeah, but that's the
came to
biggest
United.
club. That's the biggest club in the world.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
man.
he went Chelsea from 2013 to 2015, and then to United from 2016 to 2018.
I think
and
there's
then to Tottenham after that. So he went.
Yeah.
We know ball.
I think there's absolutely like, and I mean like
I agree,
negative 1,000,000% chance that Klopp leaves.
I don't even want him.
I think if Klopp does leave,
You wouldn't want Klopp?
No.
Why?
Nick, you're an idiot.
Yeah, that's
he's fucking.
That's dumb. Now that's
I think Klopp
your cap.
needs
Back to
7
cap.
years.
Your cap.
Okay. Can no one else even see an argument for this happening?
I gave my argument. It's not a great one, but you never know what Chelsea's going to do.
Give your
Klopp
argument.
is out
why.
of Liverpool in the summer. He's out. I think he will make the choice that he's out in the summer. It's the 7th year. He's not where the club needs to be. The other thing is
Nagelsmann doesn't go to Chelsea, and then we wait.
I was gonna say, so Chelsea hires nobody.
Yeah,
I don't think Chelsea's going to hire a big manager the rest of the year.
If this happens, this is going to be the biggest.
Dude,
this is
you're going to be the flowers in the next
episode.
episode.
This is crazier than
happens.
Leicester winning the Premier League.
I know. Okay, so Klopp is going to choose to leave. That is going to happen. the big thing that Liverpool needs that we've been talking about the entire season is a complete overhaul of the squad. They need to buy players. They need to get rid of players. What happened 2 months ago was that FSG took themselves off the market. They are staying in power, which means for the last, 2-3 years, they have not spent the money that is required to overhaul a squad. So what is needed is Bellingham plus 3 or 4 other midfield players. No shot that happens under FSG. So Jurgen Klopp is looking at the next year plus at a failed front office to give him what he needs, and the 7-year thing happens, he's out. That's my argument for him leaving Liverpool. He needs a job because the man is a fucking psychopath. He loves rebuilding clubs and bringing them to what they need to be. Who needs that just about worse than anybody in the Prem right now and is willing to spend endless amounts of money? Chelsea. So you're telling
there's no shot, man. There's no shot. I agree with everything you just said 100%. We're also talking the only manager to ever do it is Jose Mourinho, who's like the most selfish, like hated Chelsea afterwards and left. You think Jurgen Klopp is willing to be hated by Liverpool fans for the rest of his life?
I was gonna say he's
100%.
never going to Chelsea.
And for the rest of his,
I think he'll do it.
For the rest of his life, you think he goes to Chelsea?
So Henry, you really think this is a fact?
I think it could happen. We can't say anything's a fact or 100% a cap because we're not involved in those conversations.
No, I agree.
But I will 100% promise you that let's just say he goes to Real Madrid next, because that also might happen. I promise you within the next year, there will be a report from fucking Fabrizio Romano talking about how Todd Bowley approached Jurgen Klopp before he signed for Real Madrid and tried to sell him on the project of Chelsea. I will bet you any amount of money.
I don't disagree that that's a
any
possibility.
amount.
How much money are we talking
here? That miraculously happens.
How much money are we talking here? Because when Nagelsmann is hired in 2 weeks from now, like they're not just gonna fire him in the summer. Well, there's no way that Chelsea can be that big of a club and wait until July to know who's going to take on their summer transfer market. Like, there's no way.
We'll see.
I think Dobes had that comment of clubs usually know who they're going to hire after they sack someone, and I think hopefully
Spurs did it.
Or you did, but we just kind of fucked you on that one.
We waited until fucking the transfer season was over to hire Nuno. Genius.
Can I give my answer though? You guys didn't let me actually answer. I was giving my argument. I don't think it's going to happen either.
Oh.
I don't think it's going to happen either, but it would be fucking unreal to see. I would have popcorn every single weekend.
See, now Henry can just be like, "Oh, if it happens, I called it, but if it doesn't, I said fact."
Hey, I'll own up saying that I didn't think it was going to happen, but you know.
1 year in the next 20 years, United's going to win the Prem. We just made sort of the same argument there, Hen.
Wrexham before Tottenham. We talking about that again?
God damn it.
Shout out Wrexham, though.
Yes,
I love the Ben Foster, all of his
Fozcast, baby.
All of it. I love it all. Keep it coming. I hope more people in the Prem do like similar stuff to what he's doing, because like I feel like as fans, the behind the scenes stuff I eat up. So like all the things that they're doing at Wrexham, I'm about.
He said that. So Ben came out and said that. I don't know if you guys saw this. So he's traveling with the United Stand doing live shows, and he promised that before he committed to Wrexham. And he's sitting backstage with Goldbridge, like messing around. All of a sudden, he said he got a phone call from Beverly Hills, and he was like, he was freaking out, and Goldbridge is giving him shit. And it's fucking Ryan Reynolds. It's fucking Ryan Reynolds giving a phone call, like, "Hey man, happy to have you."
That's so funny. I love that. What a legend, Ben Foster.
That next season of Wrexham is going to be insane.
Unreal.
They are also currently top of the table and have, I think I've looked at 5 or 6 matches left to carry that out. Game in hand, 3 points up. So hoping that FX is out there just catching all the scenes. But that wraps it up for us today. Again, thank you for joining us. Follow us on the socials at Mecca of Banter. We've got it all running. The lads are active. And again, it's been another good one. Fellas?
Cheers,
boys.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, lads.
Appreciate y'all.